friends, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a minute since I've recorded a video. I actually stepped away from all of my platforms for a little while just to rest and recharge. I was kind of in a little bit of a weird mood, kind of in a bit of a rut, I guess. And so I was like, you know what, we're just gonna take a step back and just get a little bit of rest, watch some movies, and just have a little bit of time to myself. And but I'm so excited to be back and recording videos again. I've definitely missed having chats with you guys both here and over on my Instagram. I love chatting with all of you guys, and we have such a great community here on the channel. So super excited to be back to recording again. So we're into June now, so I mean, summer is starting. Not so thrilled about that because I hate summer. My allergies have been acting up. Are there any other allergy sufferers out there really having a bad time? But it's Pride Month, so happy Pride to everyone who is celebrating, and I hope you guys are getting out to some of the events in your area and checking out some LGBTQ plus books and authors and all the things so we can help support Pride during June. Of course, we should be supporting Pride all year long, but this is the one opportunity that we take just to put on our rainbow colors and celebrate diversity. So happy Pride. And I think in June is sort of when people, us Halloween lovers anyway, we start preparing for like pre-spooky season. So I know down in the States during June is when you guys have you know, little peaks of Halloween decor that are starting to come out in the stores. Here in Canada, we're a little bit behind. Usually we don't start seeing stuff until definitely after Canada Day, which is July 1st. And then it starts to not come in until August. So we are a little bit behind, but I'm all here for pre-spooky season. I'm going to be watching lots of Halloween decor hunting coming up on my favorite channels and just gearing up for the Halloween season. So June is a great month, even though we're coming into summer. I just wanted to mention as well, I won't be taking part in it because I'm still struggling a little bit with like being a little bit slumpy with my reading. But Kelsey over at Slime and Slashers is hosting a summer slasher readathon. I believe it's already started, but of course you can hop in on the bandwagon whenever you like. So go over and check out Kelsey's channel and make sure that if you want to take part in the summer slashers to check out her videos and over on her Instagram as well. So I'll have all of that linked down below. So today I wanted to wrap up everything that I read in the month of May. Like I said, I've still been a little bit slumpy. My creativity has been lacking a little bit. So in my everyday adult job, I work full-time, of course, in an actual job, and being a content creator is just a hobby. So I've actually taken on some more responsibilities at my job, and I'm finding that because it's new things that I'm learning and trying to navigate all of that stuff, it's kind of taken away a lot of my juices. So I've still been a little bit slumpy, but I still did read a fair amount of books this month. So first of all, and I'm so glad that I managed to finish this one up. So I read book 2, 3, and 4 in the Fear Street series. So this is a bind up that came out just a couple of years ago. And I love these bind ups because then I don't have to read my vintage copies and risk damaging them any further. So this is the bind up of the first 4 books. I had read The New Girl, I believe, back in February. And then this month I read The Surprise Party, The Overnight, and Missing. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit, with The New Girl, which is the very first book in the series, it didn't really feel like Fear Street to me. Like, it had some hints there, especially towards the end of the book, but the writing wasn't great. The story was kind of slow moving and a little bit repetitive until we got towards the end where, you know, the big reveals happen and everything. But it didn't really feel like Fear Street to me as such. I can't remember reading The New Girl when I was younger, when these books were actually popular, so this is the first time I was reading it. But by the time we got into the second book, which is The Surprise Party, it started feeling like Fear Street. The writing was a lot better, the story was a lot better, and I found that I was sucked into the story a little bit more. It really did start to feel like that classic R.L. Stine. And then by the time we got to the third book, which is The Overnight, I was like, this is the one. This is kind of where Fear Street for me starts. It feels like Fear Street, it's his writing. I mean, the writing in R.L. Stine's books is not exceptional by any means, but he does have a specific style, and by the time I got into the third book, I really felt like this is Fear Street. Out of these first 4 books, I think The Overnight is definitely my favorite one so far. It had all the vibes. I love anything that has to do with camping and in the summer and stuff like that, and all of these kids end up going over to Fear Island, and you know, creepy things start to happen. So that's when I really felt like I was reading a Fear Street book, was with The Overnight. So I think out of all of the Fear Street books that I've read so far, because last year I had read a couple that were out of order, that one was definitely my favorite. So if you're looking for a Fear Street book to kind of start with, or just to pick one up and you don't care about reading them in order, I would definitely recommend The Overnight. So all of these books, you know, are say between a 3 and a 4 star. The Overnight I gave 4.5. I thought it was fantastic. I really thought it was well done. And I am enjoying rereading these Fear Streets. So like I said, back in the day when these were popular, I didn't read the whole series. Christopher Pike was my sort of go-to for horror and spooky young adult books. So when I did this reread, I wanted to kind of start from the beginning and just do them all in publication order. So first 4 books are done and finished up, and what I started doing by the time I got to The Overnight was I actually started to type up, you know, basically book logs, or like an extended journal. So of course I have my smaller reading journal, but I'm not going to write everything out by hand. That happens in a book. But I think what I'm going to do for the Fear Street books, and then for Christopher Pike and for my Point Horror collection, is just to write down basically a book log or a journal entry, including like the synopsis, the things that are happening, and my thoughts, so that I can refer back to them later, because I've really been enjoying this. So I've been enjoying doing that. And so I guess the next one will be book number 5, which I don't think I have in a bind up, so I'll have to go back to reading the vintage copies here for a while. But really enjoying my Fear Street reread. So more of that to come in 2022 for sure. So the next book I read is The Ghosts of Dark Hollow. So this is the first in a series, the Dark Hollow Chronicles series by Regina St Claire. And of course, Regina is a friend of mine here on BookTube, and she has her own channel, so I'll make sure to link her channel down below. I've read a couple of Regina's short stories just in the anthology series that are released every year, but this is the first standalone kind of novel that I've read from Regina, and it was really good. So this was very much a Darcy Coates type book with a little bit of an edge of romance to it. So of course I'm not really big on romance in books, but this was totally fine. And so we have basically 2 girls who go into an abandoned mansion that's in their town, and there's all sorts of stories that are surrounding the mansion, and this owner comes out of nowhere that claims that he owns this mansion, and he brings his, I believe it's his nephew there as well, and the girls are sucked into, you know, a haunting basically, and the mysteries of this mansion and the family, and it just kind of leads into all of these tie-ins with the small town that they're from and all of that sort of thing. So very cozy sort of haunted house mystery type book. I really enjoyed this one. It was a 3.5 star read for me, and I believe it is still on Kindle Unlimited, or you can go ahead and purchase it for just a couple of dollars. I believe it's $2 or $3 to purchase. So I will definitely be reading more of Regina's writing. I really enjoyed this one. I had it downloaded onto my Kindle, and you know, just kind of every night before bed I'd read a chapter or 2, and it was very relaxing. It was very cozy. So definitely go check out the Dark Hollow Chronicles from Regina St Claire. So the next book I read in May, bit of a story behind this book. So it's called Lily, Willy, and the Mail Order Witch, and I got this on Audible, I think for like $2 or $3. It was really super cheap, and it's really super short. So I believe the audiobook itself is only about 45 minutes long. And this is an audiobook that I had as a child that my mom had on a cassette tape. And I can picture this cassette tape in my memory plain as day. So it had orange and yellow stripes on it, and I played it so much that my mom's handwriting was actually starting to rub off of the label. And for the life of me, after I grew up and this cassette tape either got lost or thrown away, I thought I literally hallucinated this book because I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find it in print. I couldn't find the audiobook. Anybody that I asked about it had never heard of it before. So obviously this is a children's book, and basically it's about this little girl, Lily, who her mom asks her to clean her room, and she really doesn't want to. So her and her little brother order a witch. So it's a mail order witch that arrives in the mail, and she asks, I believe she was either $1 or $10 or something. And so for Lily's $1, the witch will clean her room. So of course the witch casts a spell, and the room is even more messy than it was before. So then they hop on the witch's broom and they go off in search of ingredients to make the spell work. So it's a whole adventure with this witch and these two kids named Lily and Willie McGilly, and it's fantastic. I was almost in tears reading this book for, you know, the almost hour that I sat down and listened to it. I couldn't believe I actually found it. It's one of those things that I believe it's not even in print anymore, but I'm so happy that they remastered it and put it on Audible. The only bad thing is, instead of being called the mail order witch, they actually call her the internet witch, which of course back in the 80s there was no internet, or it was very, like, nobody even knew about it. And so it was a real shame that they changed the name of the book. But if you have baby bats at home that they enjoy listening to audiobooks, as I did as a child, I listened to a lot of audiobooks actually, I would highly recommend this one. It's 5 stars. I mean, the story is cute and it's fuzzy and it gives you all the feels, and it has music and singing and the whole thing. So really would highly recommend downloading this one. Like I said, for the $2 or $3 if you have kids at home, I would highly recommend this one. It is a real gem from my childhood. And then the last books that I read in the month of May, I don't have them down here with me, so I'll insert a picture here, but I did read the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark trilogy. So obviously this was a reread for me, and I purposely read these or reread them because I'm going to be on a podcast coming up here that's going to be discussing the books and the movie. So I wanted to reread them just so I had the stories fresh in my mind, which really, I think for most of us that grew up as horror-loving children, these books were a must-have in the 80s and 90s. They were eventually on a banned books list. I don't believe that happened here in Canada. I think it was just in the US. But, you know, they're all-time favorites. They're children's favorites, and rereading the stories was fantastic. So this was another one that was very cozy for me because, especially with the first book, I had the audiobook again taped off on a cassette, and I would listen to it over and over. And it's actually Alvin Schwartz, who's the author, that is telling the stories on the audiobook, which is great because I think when the authors tell the stories in the audiobook, they come across exactly as they're meant to be listened to. And it was fantastic. So the first one I listened to on the audiobook, the other two I read, and then tonight we're actually rewatching the movie. So really looking forward to that. It was very comfy, cozy. All of these books are 5-star books for me, especially the first one. I knew every single one of those stories and poems by heart, and I used to recite them quite often. And it's funny because this one as well, when I was growing up, I was always very much the weird kid and the geek, and not a lot of people where I grew up knew about these books, which is very strange because of course in the horror community they're so well loved, but where I grew up they weren't really well known. So when I would recite the stories or talk about the stories or whatever, people would look at me weird because they were like, what the hell are you talking about? So these hold a very, very special place in my heart. They are very much a happy place for me. Still to this day, I recite the Hearst song almost on a regular basis. And like I said, I think these are very much a well-loved series within the horror community. So that was great to reread those ones as well. So like I said, I was still quite slumpy in the month of May, but overall I was happy with how it turned out. Didn't have any DNFs, and for the most part I enjoyed all of my books. So if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a question or a comment down below because you know I love chatting with you guys. But until next time, stay spooky everybody. Bye.